Today is Saturday, March 21st, 2026. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, forever and ever, so let it be true. Love, honor, and respect to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and to His Holy Son, Yahweh Shai, who died for the 12 tribes of Israel. Matthew chapter 15, verse 24, Matthew chapter 10, verse 5 and 6. And double honors to the apostles of GMS, to the 4 major prophets, to the 12 minor prophets, and to the hopeful elect, the brothers, the Akim, the saints, the 144,000 who are preaching the word of God, risking our lives day in and day out. And peace and blessings to my brothers and sisters and children. Shalom. Peace. We're on another lesson. And today, we're going to get into some news. If it doesn't get dark, we'll go into some scriptures. So today is March 21st, 2026. Iran fired 2 intermediate range ballistic missiles targeting the joint US-UK military base on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Though neither missile hit the target, according to the US officials, one missile failed in flight and the other was intercepted by a US warship. But the Iranian missile strike was far off target, traveled approximately 2,400 to over 2,700 miles. All right. They didn't think Iran had that distance. Iran, the ancient Persian Empire, is showing the whole world that they could touch U.S. bases thousands and thousands of miles away. They're in shock and awe. Okay? And everything in the West, like I said, is propaganda. They're keeping a lot of this quiet. I was surprised that they even came out with this, because a few days back, a U.S. warship was hit with about 60, 70 billion dollars of munitions, short-range missiles. But this is coming out of the Middle East, though. See, I do all my research, and I can't confirm it. Okay, but in the Middle East, and even the news out of India, are claiming that ship was hit and went into the ocean. This was a major hit if it's true. Like I said, the West is keeping this quiet. Same thing with Israel. They don't want no one to know that they're losing this war. Right? They're trying to, it's called an off-ramp. They're trying to find an exit out of here. Now, did they do a lot of damage in Iran? Yes. They're doing damage over there in Lebanon. They're blowing up bridges, infrastructure. I mean, these guys are, like I said, they cross all borders and they destroy everything. But they're running out of their missiles. They weren't prepared for a long war. They were just wanted to go in 3 days, and they were crossing their fingers that the government was just going to collapse and they were going to raise the white flag and surrender. These are the ancient Persians. Now, I'll probably tomorrow or Monday, I'll put together a lot of scriptures. I'm tying it in with the Holy Book, because the ancient Persian the Medes and the Persians, they're in the Holy Book. All right. It talks about the ancient times of King Cyrus, and it's talking about today. And we're going to tie in them holy scriptures. We're living in awesome times right now. All right. Now this war can drag, but they're trying to find an exit. All right. And then you see how your president, your Congress, your Senate, they brag and they boast that they're destroying everything. You know, they never will tell the truth. Even in defeat, they continue to say that we're unstoppable, that nobody can stop this war machine. All right, this, and we are the biggest military. We're the biggest in the world. But Iran is going to show the world that they could pull down this nation to its knees. All right, they're going to destroy the U.S. economy. Okay, this is facts. This is like a David and Goliath story that's happening, that's unfolding right now in front of your eyes of what's going on in this war. They prepared for 50 years for this war. You were talking about the ancient Persians, one of the greatest empires in history. You know, you have the ancient Assyrians, the Babylonians, and then you had the Persians. You had Egypt, and then you had the Greeks, and then you had Rome, the Roman Empire. Right? But this country, this ancient empire, was prepared to fight a long war against the whore who sits on the beast. Even the beast, which is Europe, they've turned their back against the United States. All right. They know they went into a hornet's nest with the Strait of Hormuz. All right, and they've been deceiving the masses with what's going on Wall Street right now, how they're manipulate gold and silver, how it's dropped, and they're pushing that narrative that the U.S. dollar is strong, that the stocks and the bonds are strong. Are you kidding me? Don't worry, sit tight, hold your real assets, which are God's assets, which is gold and silver. All right, not Bitcoin, not that cryptocurrency. That's worth trash, just like the dollar. And then bonds, and your 401ks, and your Roth accounts, and your IRAs, all of them, they're worth nothing. Okay, but anything that comes at you. Have you noticed on Friday, Trump will come out and say, "Oh, we're gonna stop the war. It's slowing down now. We won. We destroyed everything." It's all lies. He does that so it calms the markets. Anything that comes out of his mouth, he's a pathological liar. All right, all of them are, but there's no one like this guy. I mean, this guy, he contradicts himself every sentence. This guy it's unbelievable, and people fall for it. But you do have people waking up all over the world. All over the world, the world can see what's happening. They see who the real monster is. All right, we're not the good guy. Every nation under the sun, they can see with their own eyes, and with the telephone, with the computer. All right, knowledge shall increase. That's in the holy book of Daniel, and that's the knowledge shall increase, which is this truth. But now people can also see what's going on all over the world. You don't have to listen to the narrative of the Western propaganda here in the States and Canada and Europe. Okay, you could go on you could do your research. You could find out what's really going on here. All right, but the lies that come out of these people's mouths is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So on March 21st, 2026, Iran fired 2 intermediate range ballistic missiles targeting the joint U.S.-Britain military base on Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Like I said, it was a shock and awe. The attack marking the first use of a long-range intermediate ballistic missile by Iran. Breaking news: Iran ballistic missile impacts Dimona. 23, it hit a building and it made the building collapse. And I'm surprised they came out with that, because they've been destroying Israel, especially the city of Tel Aviv. It looks like Palestine now. They're hitting it every night. All right. They're saying 70 missiles, 150, 200 missiles a night. They're hitting Israel every night. Iran, the ancient Persian Empire, they're flexing their muscles, showing the world they're not afraid of the whore. They're not afraid of NATO, and they're not afraid of the Amalekites that are in the Holy Land. All right? The whole land has been defiled. Those are the Amalekites, all right? Our number one enemy. They're the seed of the devil, okay? And Esau. Esau's the devil. That's why they're all working together. All right, but you have Europe, NATO, European Union, that are turning their backs against America. All right, we're gonna get into it. So, a short-range missile hit this building and collapsed. They're saying 23 were seriously injured, 111 sustained moderate wounds, 2,933 were lightly hurt, and 138 were treated for acute anxiety. All right, they're getting hit every night. Them Amalekites, them Zionists are trying to flee to New York, Los Angeles. They're trying to get the hell out of there because they're getting hit. They're destroying it. Okay, what comes around goes around. They're getting their payback time. All right, it's payback time. Remember, Israel and the United States attacked. They have every right to defend themselves, and they're defending themselves. You hit them, they're going to hit you back. That's how it goes. All right. That's why I tell people out there, mind your business. Right? Because it could be your last day on earth. All right. Sometimes you might mess with the wrong person, man. That has nothing to lose. That lost their job, lost their wife, lost their children, and they don't care about themselves. That's a person, a man, and it could be a woman too. But that could be that person that you try to tangle with, or maybe beeping the horn because you don't have no patience. Mind your business out there, because people are starting to lose it. I see it every day. I'm driving. I see people going through red lights, stop signs. People are they're just losing it, men and women. Right? It's getting bad out here. But these nations, they're losing their minds. We're living in, like I said, 2026. This year is going to be epic. But they hit this building. They've been hitting so much buildings, and they're saying in the news in the Middle East, they're saying thousands of Israelis, Zionists, have died. Just like the U.S. military, they're saying a couple thousand military, Marines and Army have died, but they're denying it. They're saying there's several hundred wounded now. In the beginning, they were just saying 4 were dead. Now it's up to, I believe, 15 soldiers. They're saying that passed on, but they're saying hundreds are wounded. Hundreds, 300 to 500. But according to the Iran in the Middle East, they're saying at least a couple thousand U.S. soldiers have died. But like I said, they did this, they covered it up in World War II. It came out 6 months, a year later, how many people were perished, died. Okay, this is war. They don't want to show the world the weakness, right? They don't want to show weakness, but they're getting hit. Iran has hit every U.S. base, and they're just trying to say 15 men are dead. They're hitting them with drones and missiles. All right, this is bad, and it's going to get more ugly as time goes on. This is the war that's going to end this place. All right, this could drag to 3 years, 6 years, 7 years. I think eventually, here it could be within weeks or months, they're going to have to stop because they're running out of munitions and missiles until they stock up again, and then they're going to attack again. This is going to go back and forth for a long time. But let me tell you something: the U.S. economy, the nails are in the coffin. We're never going to recover. And the latest news with all that destruction that happened in Qatar, Saudi Arabia, there's a few other Bahrain, and a few other places where they have the oil refineries. They've been hit. Okay. A few days back, they were saying that it's going to take 2 to 3 years to get everything back to normal. Now they're saying, yesterday I seen an article, it says it might be 10 years to rebuild. That's how much damage. All right. Gas prices and your public service, it's going to go through the roof. That's why we've been telling you to prepare. All right, this is moving at warp speed. But this is the nail in the coffin forever. People were already struggling the last couple of years. This is on a whole new level now with this war with the gas prices. This is just the beginning. We're about, and here in Denver, we're about to hit the $4 mark. I believe I seen in Los Angeles, it's at 570 to 670, and then in some parts of Los Angeles County, it's already hitting 7, 8.50 a gallon. And there's a town up north by the Redwoods, it's over $10 a gallon. That's coming everywhere. All right, and I believe Phoenix, I think it was at 4.60 a gallon. Vegas and Phoenix are always around the same. Okay, the West Coast is getting hit the hardest. Same thing with Seattle, Washington. I believe it's up there at 5 something. Okay, but that's just the beginning. Every day it's going up 7 cents, 10 cents, 12 cents. Okay, it's going to go up. It's not going to come down. They're really trying to say everything's all right. When you see the president or your senators, your Congress, your governor saying everything's okay, it's the opposite. Okay? Don't believe anything that comes out of their mouth. All right? Israel's nuclear secrets exposed after devastating attack on Dimona. Israel's most protected secret just got hit it just got hit. This happened a few days ago, and they're trying to keep this quiet. Okay, but they've been hitting their head they've been hitting every Israeli Zionist military base. They hit the Mossad headquarters, killed them, and they hit this building and killed all their scientists. I mean, like I said, Iran is flexing. They're showing the world that they're going to bring this whore down. The giant. All right? This arrogant bastard. We're witnessing history right now. All right? Now, you're going to have other nations, they're going to make their move. Like China, they're going to make their move on Taiwan. Because they see the weakness of the United States military. All right? They just got hit. They got hit hard over there in Dimona. For over 60 years, the Dimona nuclear facility sat deep into the Negev desert, guarded, hidden, and never officially acknowledged by the Israeli government. They've always denied that they had this secret nuclear facility. That's how these Jews are. They don't admit to nothing. All right, they don't want nobody to know that. Excuse me, I'm on a video. Sorry about that, brothers and sisters. The Israeli government, no maps, no statements, no confirmations, just silence. Iran carried out a devastating strike directly targeting Dimona, killed all their scientists. I mean, they're destroying them Amalekites, the grandson of Esau. All right, they're destroying it. We're witnessing, like I said, that's the Holy Land. It's been defiled. It needs to be wiped off the face of the earth. It needs to be purged with fire before the little flock goes back home. You brothers and sisters that are watching, you're the little flock, and you're about to go home soon. This is happening fast. But the Lord, Yahweh Shai, that whole Middle East is going to be purged, all right? The whole Holy Land has to be purged before we go back, because we're married to the Lord Yahweh Shai. All right, we're the bride, and he's the groom, and in America is the forbidden land. It's going to be a hot springs forever. Okay? Iran responds hard. U.S. not ready. Is the U.S. military unprepared? Yes, they're unprepared. They're not prepared like the ancient Russians, the ancient Scythians. All right, they've been at war, over 3 years now in Ukraine, and that's a war that we provoked, that we started at the gates of Russia. All right, starting with the proxy war back in 2014. All right, but we have mercenaries in there, and we've been sending billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight the Russians, because that's the Rothschilds want to take out Russia and the Middle East. That's what's happening right now. But it's going to backfire, and this place is going to get nuked to kingdom come. Okay? But the United States is not prepared, and all those Marines that they're sending over there, because they're going to send these kids on an island, all right, right off of Iran, and they're going to be slaughtered. They have over 1 million active soldiers, and they're deep into the ground. They got their trenches. They've been digging for decades, waiting for the United States. This is what people don't understand. We've been going back and forth with them since since the late 60s, early 1970s. It's been a back and forth. All right, we've been wanting to take out Iran, ancient Persia, for decades. But they've been waiting. They're waiting. And all those young men, they're going to be slaughtered out there. And there's going to be a draft. All right, this war, hey, everything is falling apart over here. The economy, when the economy falls, when you see the housing collapse, when you see all these job losses, you have to go to war to reset the economy. This is what people did. The economy was already done. It was only floating on a raft because of the Federal Reserve printing money, keeping it afloat. Okay? But now they have to go to war. It's a war. And it's all about that oil and resources and minerals. And we'll talk more about that tomorrow, because Iran hit every U.S. base, but they hit our satellites. And I have to write that all down. That's a whole 2-3 pages. Or I did a lot of research a few days back on it. And these satellites, they're not going to be able to ever make them again. They're lost forever. Okay, we're going to get into it. And the minerals, they only come from China. And China ain't going to give those minerals to Martin Marietta, and the other company is Raytheon. There's a few of those corporate Rothschild corporations that make all these satellites and these drones and for war, okay, and that STAD system. But Iran hit it within the first 3 days, destroyed them all. Each one was worth over 500 million. But we're gonna talk it, like I said, I have to write all this down. I got it all the information, but I'm going to put it down so I could bring it out on the next video. And I want to bring out a lot of good scriptures in the book of Daniel, Esther, in the Holy Book about the ancient Persians. All right, we're living, like I said, we're living in great times. But the U.S. is not prepared. They thought they were just going to go in there like what they did to over there in Venezuela. They picked up the president, Maduro, and his wife, kidnapped him. And that was another sneaky thing they did. They were trying to do like a sit down, a peace thing, and that's how they snatched them up. Okay, that's what they were doing with Iran. They were having a sit down with the olive branch. Let's make a peace deal. Let's do this. Let's do that. At that same time, U.S. military fighter jets, Israeli fighter jets were attacking. That's how they do business. That's the Greco-Romans. They're backstabbers. All right, you can't trust them. They lost all credibility. All right, nobody, the whole world, like I said, they're sick of you. They're done. All right. Heightened military and economic conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Iran is responding aggressively to the Israeli attacks, creating a significant instability in the region. All right, every night they're pounding, destroying them Amalekites. Destruction of the infrastructure. Iran has successfully targeted critical Israeli infrastructure, such as facilities in Haifa, extending the duration of global oil, natural gas, and fertilizer shortages. And like I told you, we're in a famine. All right, Americans are going to feel it. And like I said, this could go 3, 7, 10 years. And I always, I hope the Lord comes tomorrow. Okay, don't get me wrong. But deep in my gut, I believe this is going to drag 7 to 10 years. And it's going to be hard. A lot of people are going to be homeless. All right, this is the purge. And the Most High is going to make people pay for their sins, for their evil. It says the conflict is economic warfare. The conflict is described as a battle for control of the global economy and the supremacy of the U.S. dollar. Iran is forcing oil purchases to be made in Chinese yuan, further undermining the petrodollar. And that's what's going on right now. The nations that they let these ships go through, because the Strait of Hormuz is shut down, but there's a small, they allow a few ships to go through to India, to China. I believe they made a deal with Japan, and Japan's always been a friend of the U.S. For the last 60 years or so, since we dropped a hydrogen bomb on them. And then they got on their knees and they started to work with the United States. But it looks like they're starting to turn their back against the states, against the Pentagon. Okay, but they only want to deal with the Chinese yuan. Okay, they don't want nothing to do with the petrodollar, nothing to do with the reserve note that comes from the Federal Reserve. All right, that's why we're in a war. It had nothing to do with drugs over there in Venezuela. We're the biggest drug dealer on the face of the earth, which are pharmaceutical companies. But they make false accusations on nations to get the dumb and dumber population here to agree. Okay, that's why we snatched up the president of Venezuela and we took the oil. But what people don't understand is it could take years before we can use that oil, because there's different grades of oil, and the only oil that works with the vehicles here in America come from Canada. I think there's oil coming out of Texas and the Middle East. All right, there's different grades. This is what people don't understand. But like I said, in days to come, I'll write that all down and I'll break it down. All right, you just can't just put any oil or fuel into your vehicle. There's certain grades of fuel. All right, but what's going on in Venezuela, it's going to take time before they get that rolling. The next, like I said, 12 to 18, 24 months is going to be bad. I see gas prices probably hitting $10 or more a gallon. All right, it's going to get bad. It could go. If it continues, if it gets out of control, gas could go into the hundreds of dollars a gallon. Like I said, we're about to enter the second quarter of World War III. The United States is losing, and Israel, and like I said, I've been saying this, nukes are coming. There's going to be 2, 3, 4 cities going to get hit with tactical nukes, and it's going to be Israel because they're getting their ass kicked. Or they're psychopaths, they're sociopaths. Okay, that's why Russia is finally going to end them in the fourth quarter. They're going to totally just wipe the Middle East out with nuclear destruction, and they're going to hit the United States. It's in the Holy Book. I'm not making this up. I'm not pulling things out of a hat over here. All right, it's in the book. We can prove it. It's already been written. It's done. You can't save this place. You can't save those Amalekites. They're at their end now. All right, it's the end of the age, and it's the end of their empire. So Iran is forcing oil purchases to be made in the Chinese yuan, further undermining the petrodollar. Yeah, we're at war, and the king of the East is at war with the Rothschilds. The ancient Persian Empire is at war with the Rothschild family, and the king of the North, Russia, the bear, is at war with the Rothschild family, with the whore who sits on the beast. And it says allied weakness. U.S. allies in NATO have limited military capabilities and are largely failing to act, leaving the United States to act almost alone. Yeah, because Trump is begging Italy, France, England. You know, Spain don't want nothing to do. Spain, their prime minister, and you have their government. Every day, they spit fire about America. They don't want no U.S. soldiers. You know what's going to happen in the next coming weeks and months because what's going on with this oil? Because gas prices, they're saying, is already hitting $8 a gallon in Europe. All right, it's gonna hurt the whole world because of the act of terrorism that we provoked. So these Amalekites, they're bringing everything down. Their whole economy's in the gutter. They've been protesting for 2 years against that prime minister. All right, that Amalekite, that demon that is the prime minister over there in Israel. All right, they've been protesting, and then he starts wars. So you know, he's a war criminal. They want to pick him up. Different parts of the world, they want to grab him. All right, because they're doing a genocide over there in Palestine. They're doing war crimes. They're doing war crimes over there in Lebanon, in Syria, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and now in Iran, blowing up schools, hospitals, and everything, man. All right, but now, like I said, what goes around comes around. Now they're hitting their apartment buildings and downtown buildings. They're blowing them up just to rubble. But even Europe has turned their back, and that's in the Holy Book. That Europe, the beast hates the whore. They're even gonna unload thermonuclear bombs on this whore. Okay. Let's go here. Defense industrial challenges. Both the U.S. and Israel have inadequate defense manufacturing capabilities to sustain the level of conflict, particularly regarding minesweepers and specialized munitions. They're going to have great challenges ahead for the United States and Israel, because they're going to start putting mines out there in the Gulf. And like I said, these guys, they're not ready for what these ancient Persians and these Russians and these Chinese and North Koreans, they're not ready for this battle. All right, but they're gonna still go. It's gonna go through its motions, and like I said, it's gonna go nuclear, and then now it'll be the second quarter. Third quarter is when they do world lockdowns, RFID chip. Third quarter, and fourth quarter is when all the nations it's just gonna be hell breaks loose, and millions of men will be dead. That's Armageddon. That's how close. It's moving quick. Geopolitical consequences. The situation is pushing Russia to become the dominant energy supplier, as Europe is forced to continue buying Russian LNG despite sanctions. Remember I was talking about those drones that Iran, I was doing more research, and what they do is they're making these drones. So they have a shell, but under the shell is a plumbing pipe, PVC and copper pipes. It's a decoy. They send these drones, they look big, they have like a big shell to it, but underneath is pipes. And you have the U.S. military. These are the ones I'll tell you that it costs us $300, $700 to make. They send these out, and then the United States military sees them, and then they're shooting $1, $2, $3 million missiles. On one drone, they shot 8 tomahawks at it. So who's winning this war? All right. Remember, every missile they shoot, some of these missiles have 100 ounces of silver. Some have 300. Some have 500. The bigger the missile, faster the missile, the more silver that are in these missiles. Short range, ICBMs, nuclear weapons, all have silver in them. All right, the satellites and these drones, the real drones. So what they do is the Persian Empire, the Iranians, they send out these shell, decoys. All right, and then what is a decoy? It's used to lure or mislead or distract enemies into a trap away from a primary target, into wasting resources or a false target. And that's what they do. They're using these fake drones that are made of plumbing pipe. I mean, you gotta say, in history, these guys are genius. These Persians. All right, they're gonna bankrupt the United States, and I believe they're asking for $200 billion. And in the beginning of the war, it was $1 billion a day. Now they're saying it's over $2 billion a day. But then you have millions of people in America that are homeless. You have millions of Americans that can't pay their rent, that can't pay their mortgage. Millions are new homeless people. So you're gonna just have millions and millions of Americans homeless. You have the elderly that they can't survive on their SSI. So you're gonna have a wave after wave after wave of Americans living on the streets. If you see but we have billions and billions of dollars for this war. All right. So that we're living in the times of confusion. But I understand what's going on, and I know you brothers and sisters know what's going on. But the rest of the world here, they're dumb and dumber, but it's gonna hit your wallet. This is the nail in the coffin for the U.S. economy. Okay, that's why in the Holy Book in Revelation it talks about rich and poor will be the same, because this is the purge. Okay, hope all you brothers and sisters were edified. Most High willing, I'll bring out the scriptures tomorrow, but I wanted to bring out this breaking news of what's happening, and there's more. There's so much more that's happening out there, but like I said, every day it's escalating. But just pray, repent, read your holy book, and don't let Satan take your dignity. All praises to the Most High God. Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, forever and ever. So let it be true. Most High willing, I'll be here tomorrow. The water. Thank you for watching.